A Baha'i house of worship is a place for prayer, meditation, and contemplation for everyone. And that really means people from all backgrounds, from all walks of life, to come and to be able to reflect on the significance of their life, to draw closer to their Creator, and then to draw on that inspiration and go back out into their community. The story behind this temple site begins 70 years ago when the newly formed National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of Canada were tasked with finding an appropriate site for both a future temple for Canada and for the Baha'i National Center. It was 1968 that the site that is currently going to be used for the future temple was identified. And it belonged to Dr. Herbert Pugsley and his wife. And they had lived there for many years in a log cabin in the woods, and they absolutely adored living there. Dr. Herbert wanted to sell his land to an individual or an organization that would have the same love and care for it. So when he heard about the National Spiritual Assembly's project to build a future temple there, he felt like it aligned with what he was looking for, and he happily sold the land. Something about this temple which I think is unique, this idea of having a temple in the forest. How special that there'll be a temple that just a short drive away from downtown Toronto, where families can have that connection with nature and where there can be this association with the divine and really the need to protect nature for future generations. Very closely associated to this project is this idea of stewardship. So when the National Spiritual Assembly purchased this land, it was always with this idea that it would be for the peoples of Canada. So in selecting this site and in considering what design would be appropriate for it, the National Spiritual Assembly commissioned several studies and has also been working closely with the Toronto Regional Conservation Authority.
So as part of understanding how the proposed temple and associated infrastructure would impact the natural environment, extensive ecological surveys were taken for these lands. So we've done inventories on the bird species that may be nesting in the woodlands, insects, various mammals.
So when we first walked this site, we were really looking for opportunities for restoration. But when we started looking at some of the trees, these, for example, are European buckthorn. This is an invasive species, and one of the things that we really want to do is stop that invasion because it's going to compromise the integrity of that significant woodland beyond. We've inventoried almost 1,200 trees in the woodland and throughout the site. Each tree has been affixed with a silver tag with a number. That tag cross-references to a matrix that describes the tree by species, by size, by condition, whether it's got an infestation or not. And then we've come back out and we've flagged the trees that are proposed to be removed. Generally, the flagged trees are non-native or invasive. The whole point here is to really gain a good, solid understanding of the nature of the forest.
So ultimately, what we've been able to determine from the ecological studies completed is that we have the best location for the temple. So the temple is being proposed in an area where there's a high amount of invasive plant cover and a low amount of wildlife habitat. So we're proposing it in an area with limited impact and the opportunity to do a lot more restoration and enhancement to provide an overall benefit in the broader landscape.
Of course, there's no design yet, but what I would imagine is this idea of a temple that's nestled among the trees, a structure that will look organic with the area around it. One thing that an architect might think about is reflect on this idea that the temple itself should be as perfect as is possible in the world of being. And so they'll be looking to balance not just the structure, but also think about harmony with the existing land around it.
So these white pines would probably be approaching 110 years old. This one is stately. It does have some crown damage. Generally, it's healthy, and we'd like to retain that tree. It's also just a gorgeous tree. It really is. It's iconic. It's the signature tree of the Canadian landscape, and that's kind of what we want to have nestled around the temple. It's the crowns of these trees, the soft needles, that image of the Canadian landscape.
The experience for a visitor to the temple begins as soon as they start to walk in the woods. And I think this is something very Canadian, this experience of walking in the woods, feeling that tranquility, the calm.
We're looking at this woodland also as a scene. So somebody visiting the temple would get a view of the whole scene. You know, the overstory trees, which are beautiful, the ground floor, which is also beautiful, the sense of all those plants, spring, summer, fall, and really get kind of a spiritual experience out of that setting. The site has its tremendous potential. It has some great assets, but where there are also opportunities for us to enhance what's there and make it more diverse, more ecologically functional, and more beautiful. It's about restoration, but it's also about spirituality. It's about making a functional building work. It's about integrating community benefits. So there's a lot of dimensions in this that make it a much richer project than I would say most that we've worked on. This project is also really, really unique in that the lifetime or the vision is for a 400-year project. We have a steward that's going to be taking care of that landscape long after we've done what we do. And that gives us a longer horizon in terms of the vision. So not many projects you get to start with, let's build a forest, and then at the end of the day, let's build a 400-year-old forest.
The National Spiritual Assembly carries this deep sense of responsibility to build something not just for Canadians at this moment, but also for future generations of Canadians that will come here to pray.